opportunity for us to lunch off a lot of homework that somebody else has already done. So, and I guess I'll speak openly about the fact that this group here, who you represent, is spoken very fluidly about their concerns, and they're asking you to look at it. And that's the reason why the setbacks and everything were put in there. And yet, when I come to this meeting, it seems like I've seen this movie before, because immediately I get that, oh, there's some good language here, but we're telling everybody we don't want to invest here. That's not what we're saying. We're saying we want to be respectful about the way that we do this to our community, because the decisions we make will affect generations here. So I'm just trying to make sure that at least my voice says that I would like for us to do something like this, as opposed to beat draft 6 or whatever it is to death. So I'd rather have something that's got a strong legal foundation that can evolve over time, but at least gets us out in front of the state so that we've got something here before we get caught with something that's inadequate. Sometimes quick action is worse than no action at all. So if you throw something together to put us in a quandary, then it's going to be very difficult for us to reverse. So I just wanted to support the language here that what these folks say does matter. And I hope what I say matters a little. And that I feel pushback every time the community speaks to you. I feel pushback. And so I think looking at something like this makes a lot of sense. And I guess that's my 2 cents worth for now. So get off my soapbox.
So what's the members thinking?
Well, that's what we've been dealing with. I mean, these farmers and homeowners here are wanting a good order to protect themselves and everything. And Ed has found one that works well. And every time we get close, Chuck says the commissioners are not going to approve this. So we got a commissioner here. Why not?
You're asking me a question I'm totally unprepared for. I've been in the restroom. I'm sorry.
I mean, at every meeting.
What is your question to me?
Okay. The last meeting we had, we were talking, well, it wasn't an official meeting.
Discussing that.
We were discussing. And Chuck says, well, when that goes to the commissioners, they're going to tear it apart. Why? I mean, we need a commissioner here all the time so we can all work together and get it done. What, I mean, why are you against the farmers and the homeowners? 2 commissioners.
Well, I can't speak for the other 2 commissioners.
Well, there's 3, but Mike Burton, he's no problem. I mean, he would work with the homeowners and the farmers. But you and Bardsley,
Now, wait just a minute. Don't put this you and Bardsley.
well, I am, Ron.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
Well, it's not going to work.
Well, you heard it. Why haven't you been here to help us put this ordinance together?
I cannot answer why I have not been here. I've dealt with a hip replacement. I'm not doing too well physically.
Could you do it on Zoom?
Pardon?
Couldn't you have done it on Zoom? You did before.
I did what on Zoom? I don't know how to use Zoom.
From your house to be a part of the meeting.
WebEx.
Oh, okay. I could have, yes.
But that's what we've been dealing with. I mean, we get something together that everybody likes, and here's the 2 commissioners up here that's gonna trash can it. And here's an ordinance from Adams County that everybody likes. I mean, can't we move this on, or do we have to go to 6 and work on that and then send it to commissioners and then tear it apart? I mean, What do you and Bardsley have against the farmers and the homeowners?
Myron, I got something to say here
What,
about using
what do you think they don't like this draft 6? What in there don't they like?
Well, it's not just draft 6. I mean, it's the previous drafts also.
I
Okay,
think what Ryan,
I just haven't heard anything, that's why I'm asking.
well, I think Ryan trying to say what we heard. In different meetings, we say we set this, and we hear a little comment back from Ryan's office in charge. That said, I don't think the commission's gonna set this, they're gonna tear it apart.
What
Well,
part are they gonna tear,
that's when our concern,
what part are they gonna tear apart? That's all I
that's
haven't
what we
heard.
want, that's why I think he's got a question.
Well, one part was the size of the setbacks. That's probably not required. Some of this other language that we're talking about are probably acceptable, but the big one would be the setbacks. This is what I'm hearing. Now, we can present it and pass it. Like I said, this is our decision to make here. They have the opportunity to make this adjustment. So
We made a section.
I personally think it is too much. But if I pushed it, I've let everybody speak in the consensus, and that's why it's in there. I didn't overrule. When I was president, I was just taking the input and the consensus to put it in here. I personally don't like it, but I'm not the one to make the decision.
See, that's because of the setback. Why the setback?
Well, I can't speak for them, but I'm thinking they were running solar companies or what.
If they don't like it, let them go.
I'm sorry, Chuck, I didn't hear that last part.
As far as the current setbacks in the proposed ordinances is like 1360 or something like that.
I think it's 1320. I think it's 1320.
We're not making an ordinance to make the solar companies happy.
Need to find a balance.
Can I speak for just a moment? This, excuse me, I just want to speak for just a moment, and then you can carry on. Draft 6, as far as I'm concerned, is trash. This change in the setbacks, as we're talking right now, we was discussing this 1320, but right here, it went back to 250 feet.
That was.
No, you didn't go far enough. We had to split out the minor we had to split out minor and major. Yeah.
Okay,
So
All right.
if we were looking at a solar farm, say at Oak Hill or Madison Grant, 1320 would disallow all minor.
okay. Well, this here new ordinance, this here one, this is the best plan. And I really think you guys ought to be talking about this one. Okay? It's very good, very well put out. You guys really seriously
Ma'am,
need
I
to
don't want
consider
to
it.
be rude, but I haven't heard your name and nor who.
My name is Jackie Sheets,
I'm sorry.
Jackie Sheets. And actually, Ron, I am going to have to call on you to resign from public office
You're going to have to.
because you don't take your position seriously. Maybe you've been ill, and if that's the case, then maybe you should step down. Because,
I'm not going to step down. I'm going to run again when the time comes. Those who don't want me here have the choice.
well, that's something else. When we go to the ballot and they say that you pick 3, but there's only 3 to choose from, you have no choice. There's nobody that's going to run against you. You're running in. But if you're in bad health, then maybe you should try to step down and think about that.
I'm not in bad health, honey. The
Well,
bottom
that's what
line,
you just said why you wasn't here. You had a hip replacement.
I did
I'll
have a
let you
hip
go.
replacement. And I'm on the mend. I'd like to address that part. I'm on the mend.
So what does the board want to do? Move on? Or
I'd
you wanna
make
talk
a
about
motion.
Allen County?
Rex, I make a motion that we move on with this recommendation from Adams County that the BZA or Ed has worked so hard with attorneys and everything. And it fits good with the farmer, landowners, homeowners. And I think it's a good thing to have that we don't have a threat over our head that the commissioners are going to can it. So the solar companies can come in because they don't like it. And my thoughts is if they don't like it, move on. We're not, they're going to sell it in a year anyway. We got to protect our homeowners, our farmland, and everything else. We're not working for the solar companies.
We had a motion. Do we have a second? Got a second? Roll call.
Frankel,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Crouch. Florence,
I still had a question on it. Okay. So my question was for you said the minimum setback was, we went back to 250 feet, and that's to allow
that was-
the other.
That was in draft 6 to try to split out major and minor,
Mhm.
because a 1320 setback wouldn't allow for,
Well, I'm talking about, you said the minimum was 250 on the draft, right?
on draft 6. This is Adam.
And that was to allow for the already placed solar at Oak Hill or Massa Grant, correct? Is that what you said?
Right.
Right. So if it's at, like, for the Adams County one, it says 300 feet. So if it's, the minimum is 300 feet. they would be-
Adams County, that's kind of what I've got up here.
Uh-huh.
Their setback goes off of 5 acres. Generally, we see 10. There's some out there that's 15 acres. At 5 acres, Oak Hill, AEP, and Gas City solar farms would be in the technically major. They would not fall under a minor. 1320 setbacks would probably negate all three. Probably it'd negate Madison Grant too, at 3.8 acres.
So at the Adams County ordinance, they would negate all those.
Yeah, 1320, all three of those wouldn't be allowed. Actually, at 250, all three of those have setback issues currently at 250.
So moving to Adams County ordinance forward, and then it goes to the commissioners, correct?
Then
And
it
they'll
comes back to us.
Come back to
If they
us
don't prove it,
if they don't approve it.
we send a recommendation back to them,
So then it's got to.
and then they can do then what they want.
Rex, may I say something mid-vote? Since appropriate, or should you let the vote pass through?
I think stopping was probably inappropriate to begin with. Probably take the vote and then take questions.
Yeah. We want to stop the vote and just have a chance.
Finish it, don't you?
Got to finish the vote first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then a roll call. Move on.
Florence,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Maynard,
Me? Yes.
Maury,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Reedy.
Yes.
Looks like it's approved.
This would go to a public hearing. And then it'll go
Right.
favorable, unfavorable, whatever the public hearing results are.
Rex, can I say one thing? I spoke to a local farmer recently, and I said that I would be in support of the 1320 setback. And I want, if that local farmer hears this, I want him to know that I do support that. But through this entire process, Ed has done quite a bit to fight against solar farms. And he's brought to us an ordinance from another county. We're taking one man's word to pass an ordinance on where we should have the attorney that drafted this come in and at least explain the thought process, go through some of the details. to just bring it up in this forum and to have it pass it is, in my opinion, inappropriate. We're taking one person's word about what should be done, and then we're pushing that forward. We spent how many months developing these different drafts? You come in 1 month and we push another county's ordinance, and that makes no sense at all. So, I do support the large setbacks. I do support the farmers, but we use broad language to say that we're supporting all the farmers. There are farmers out there that want to rent their land out to solar, and we're stepping on their toes. We can all have different opinions, but in my profession, I work with enough farmers to know that there are a lot of farmers that don't want to be told what to do, but now we're going to tell farmers what they can't do. And so I just think we should have taken it under more advisement and at least allowed the attorney to explain this ordinance or this draft.
I see what you're saying.
Won't that be with the public hearing? Won't that be something that the public hearing we can have?
That's what I thought.
It's not a guarantee.
Why do we need to? We just voted.
Because,
So to approve it.
yeah,
Well,
I asked the members what they wanted to do, and we got 2 people who made a motion.
This is what you emailed out the other day, right?
I think why we ended up with this is, after last meeting, for a minute, after we was told that we didn't follow APA or the state guideline on starting this draft, I think a lot of the board members, just like me, had questions. So I think that's why they're sitting the way they are. I might be wrong, but this way I feel is sitting the way they're feeling.
And I want to be clear. I think that I can probably stand behind the Adams draft. That is not my, I guess, complaint. It's the process.
He's saying we're taking one man's opinion on this.
Ed is the one that's been pushing it the hardest, yes.
Well, he's contacted attorneys and everybody is on it.
I would still like to hear from the gentleman who drafted it. I would like to hear the what fors.
What he's saying, Byron, he would like to hear from the attorney.
From
That attorney.
From Adams County's attorney?
Yes,
Well,
that's what he's at. We did ask last meeting if we wanted to, and no one said anything. It was brought up. Nothing was said. No one said they wanted. So that's where we left it. The meeting was there.
I don't know what we can afford to do with an outside attorney and what, I mean, I don't know what the procedures are for that.
Well, had this Bill come? No, he's not here now. But
No, it's our new counsel.
yeah, he's
We done? Go ahead, speak your name.
Jason White. So I live in Upland and I'm a farmer. Just by a show of hands, how many farmers are neither kind of against, how many farmers against it? How many farmers are for it?
It's for.
Four. How many farmers are for solar? For solar. How many are against? So when you say you're speaking to just one farmer, if I'm for solar, I'm here at these meetings stressing my concerns. No, I'm just saying, if I'm for solar, I'm showing up because I want to rent my land and I want to make more money. So I'm showing up to these to stress to you guys that I want solar. I want solar, but they're not here. They're not in Delaware County. They're not, our lives are, as farmers, are consumed coming to here to preach to you guys that we don't want solar.
Again, I want to be clear. I am against solar. I think it's a waste of time, but I do have, there's a libertarian part of me that says I don't want to step on another person's right to be able to do with their land what they want done.
Right, I agree,
And
but
so-
none of them show up here to stress to you, don't step on my feet.
No, but they wouldn't be all that welcome in this environment.
I'd walk in here. Yeah, I would walk in here.
No farmer does want the
If they will push solar, they would be there, at least needs to make sure that they've got.
Yeah, there are people that have signed up to this.
Sure.
Yes. So there are.
Yes, and they should be.
We just don't want the neighborhood.
So let's move on. This is gonna go to public hearing next month. So you got something you want to say? Hey, go ahead.
I passed this out to the commissioners today. I don't know whether, I hope that you are all aware that Grant County has a comprehensive plan. We do have, okay? Also, American Planners Association in Chapter 8. I read the Act, it's 8560 South Wheeling Pike, Fairmount, Indiana. And I'm not against solar, but I think there's a proper application for it. I watched Ryan's movie that he took when he drove around Randolph County. I happened to be coming back from Louisville. My grandkids were showing cabins this weekend. I came up on the I-69 State Road 26 interchange. And I looked across my community, my neighborhood, where the majority of the landowners that we are aware of signed up in Grant County for their land. And I will look for an hour and a half, or I'm sorry, a mile and a half or 2 miles to the southeast from that interchange. And if this occurs, based on who I believe has signed up, I will see nothing but a glare of solar panels for a mile and a half or 2 to the southeast. And it about brought tears to my eye knowing that that was my view of where I've lived for the last 30 years, that I'm going to see for the rest of my life. My kids are going to see that when they inherit the farm ground around. Is that the intensity of solar that we want in this county? That dense population? And Chuck, you say that based on what you believe the commissioners will approve and not approve. I ask you, how do you have that information that none of the rest of us have? What communications are going on between you and the commissioner? Because you're speaking as if you've had those communications with them.
I've only spoken with one commissioner in a meeting. And my gist from what he's saying, I'm only talking about setbacks, because that's really the only thing that comes up. That number does not sit well, at least with that commissioner, particular commissioner.
And that was said in the commissioners meeting also. I believe it was the first one in January. It is, I mean, it is on our YouTube channel. But I mean, they basically said that we are not going to adopt the most restrictive ordinance in the state. And that's on in their meeting.
Even before, Ron, do you think that's fair from a commissioner's perspective that you take that attitude before you hear the patrons of Grant County about how they feel? Because it states that the American Planners Association says that the communities who plan to update a zoning ordinance commission potential issues, make sure the ordinance reflects the local tolerance. Can you say that you've reflected on the local tolerance of Grant County people?
Can I say,
Please.
am I going to listen to cross-section of people from across this county and act accordingly? Yes.
Thank you. I think that's all we can ask. Because I don't believe that the support for solar at the intense level that it could occur is going to be accepted in this county. And Ed Hartman is the man who's done the greatest research on this. He is more educated about solar, I would promise, than anybody sitting in this room.
I haven't spoke to Ed. I want to get his input, obviously, but I will listen to everybody that has input in this process and act accordingly.
As a 22-year 22-year school administrator who had hundreds of children's education in my hands as a principal in elementary building. I told my teachers, I will not blaze the path. There's too much risk involved in the education of children for us to take risk in what works and what doesn't work with these children's education. Solar is an innovation. It's a new innovation. Does Grant County want to blaze the path, take risks, and then look back and say, oh man, I wish we had taken our time? Let's take a conservative route to this. We can always change it. Let's make sure that we protected the residents and the landowners. Landowners have a right to do what they want to do with their properties as long as they're not infringing on their neighbors. That's stated in the information I've just given you. So please take a conservative approach. We can always change it. Thank you.
Thank you.
State your name and sign in.
Linda Morgan from Upland. First thing, Ryan has put a lot of work into this. I came into this some months back, and I just want to recognize that. Okay. Well, one of the things with this thing from Adams County that I wanted to ask about, it's talking about application fees and an annual fee. And then they're talking about if it's not paid within a certain amount of time, that a lien would be placed upon the real estate, and they're leasing. So legally, can that be in there? Can they put a lien on the real estate? Or is it actually the inventory of the company? Well, but, okay, so, but they're leasing the ground from whoever they're leasing the ground from, right? So that's something I want everybody to look at, okay? And when you get a hold of it, it's 705. And the other thing I'd like to see happen, there's a lot of junk land around Marion where there's been factories. I've probably said this before, but is there any way that Grant County can make it more attractive to the solar industry to use that land? Nobody wants to build on it. Nobody wants to live on it. Most people probably don't want to live next door to it. And I think there's probably still super fund money out there, that kind of thing. So that's a direction I would like to see go along with this. And that's pretty much what I got to say. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Emily Williams. I'm with GeneX Solar, and I really just wanted to come up here and speak and say hello to you all and the crowd, just to put a face to the name. We've been engaged in these conversations, really just listening and learning from the communities, and GeneX takes a firm stance on development that we seek to develop these sites in a way that harmonize with their surrounding communities. So we think it's very important just to be involved in these stakeholder conversations. Honestly, where we are in development, because there was some interest about landowners being out, and I can only speak for ours, but we're really early on in the development stage. And so sometimes the landowners, it's so early that they wouldn't normally come out at this stage. So you all are kind of ahead of the game as far as our project only specifically is concerned with this ordinance. And I know some of that's due to HB 1381 last year. There's Senate Bill 11 this year, setting voluntary standards. But I just wanted to give you guys that context. So if you're looking at me and my colleague Trina back here, you're wondering, who are you? We're just here and happy to be a part of these discussions. Also, too, I hear a lot of common questions come about, and just give some context, like to Ed's diagram of what he's shown of the 1320 setbacks and how you could build solar in some parts potentially across the county. That may be the case. I haven't looked at the maps particularly. I will say how all solar developers develop is you're looking first at the existing transmission line infrastructure, and that's what drives where your location can be. And then once you make that filing to propose a project on a certain spot, that's your spot, and it can't move. And those rules are tightening on us for the benefit of all electric generation, to kind of smooth out the process. But it's not something that's a flexible thing of, oh, we're proposing here, why don't we move 2 miles across the county? It's just not something we can really do. So I just wanted to provide that context, because I think a lot of times people think that's a possibility, and it's just a reality of building. I don't care if you're building coal, nuclear, gas, that's just part of it. So something to take in consideration, because that, and I understand where you all are coming from. I live in Indiana, built the Gas City Solar Park here. So I'm curious if anyone's driven by there. You really can't see it. But
That's something to do with Gas City Solar. When they get the new one done, or they gonna do like I heard they did the last one, sell it off to another?
no, that solar facility is owned by Indiana Municipal Power Agency, who's the wholesale power provider to Gas City electric utilities, and that power is used locally. Mm-hmm.
The other one they built, did they sell that one?
So those are in an LLC or something. I can't really speak to that anymore since it's not my company, but it's.
They sold off.
Yeah, I mean, I would, and you talk to Dick Justice maybe. But it, the great thing about solar is it has a lower profile, and you've got a tree line right there, and you really can't.
That's why
see it.
my concern of being on this board is we know if they build probably what the tax base will be and what money will come around. And I'm glad the county's going to get it. What I'm concerned about is if they build it and they sell it to an enemy, like we was told. Certain ones are like nonprofit people, and they don't pay taxes. That means the county will not get the taxes.
No.
That's my concern.
That's not
always been my
the case.
concern for day
These are
one
all.
with this.
Yeah, all these sites have to pay personal and real property taxes. Yeah. So they take on.
Would it be easier if the county had the ordinance before you came in?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, if we come into a county and there's development standards, there's a plot forward. I mean, if you were any type of development, that would be the case.
Like we're talking about right now, the ordinance. If we would happen to accept that, you were out here and you came, would it be easier? You could look at our ordinance. It's already set up.
So I'm not going to lie, the ordinance as written with the setbacks will make development in this county very challenging.
Why is it?
Because of where the transmission line infrastructure is relative to where people are. So and again, I haven't, Ed will have to do that study on our GIS as to where those spots are, because I'm likewise interested. You have to assume that those folks are also interested in leasing their land for solar, because like there's folks in this room, they're not interested in leasing. That's fine. There are folks that are. So if those setbacks are placed, it'll be challenging.
Well, we haven't, like this one farmer said, we haven't had farmers come in here and say, I promote solar. I want to develop, cut that setback back. And, but that hasn't happened.
Yeah. And
I mean, it doesn't matter if the setback is 1,300 feet. to us. I mean, we want protection for our farmland and our homes.
Sure. I think that goes back to we're early in our development stage. So some of those conversations usually happen a little bit later. As far as a setback 1320 from other farmland to protect the farmland, from a house. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, that makes more sense. Sorry. I canceled my prior comment. But yeah, I mean, if you're protecting the farmers as far as their houses and those setbacks, it's something we're going to have to look on our map, but it's, the reality of setbacks of this scale is that it either makes it very challenging to the point where it may not make sense. And then, the county has to look at all sorts of things with these projects. And I hesitate to go down that route because I don't want to just seem talking money, because and I understand it's more than that. But it is a kind of economic gain for the county without any services asked of it, that can be funds that counties don't get to see very often, frankly. So
I have measured 1,320 feet from my house, my property line. And that's not too far away, believe me.
sure, I mean, I can understand your personal feeling on that. I empathize with that. I do. I was just saying that it will be challenging for us to build, or the reality of setbacks is you just need more land for a project. So the projects get even more spread out. And I don't know that that's something that counties always really think through. So yeah, I get it though.
Yes. I know that our ordinances, few information he's one but the public know some information of that contract. You don't have to go completely, you have to tell everything. One day, it's information that contract to be received, that want to be participating with it. So
some terms of the contracts will become public, just a matter of, like, when you enter into a lease, you later on in stages, you'll record memorandums of those leases. Yeah, so if there's questions, like, we include decommissioning agreements in all of our contracts with our landowners.
He had an aneurysm and he lost when he had heard it.
Yes.
And he said, yeah.
Lien put on the property because of us. Yeah, so we would, right, right. Yeah, so that would be an obligation on us to rid, but honestly, that is a very good question. Can I get back to you on that by looking at our contract specifically?
People took a CT scan for something else. I come up good.
Sure.
And then we say you got that.
Sure. Yeah, happy to talk about those things. We take on the taxes and any incremental increase in the taxes, which will surely occur by being reassessed about commercial use, since the tax rates are higher. But yes, happy to connect and answer any questions you have.
They monitor annually until.
Yeah. Yeah, so as a citizen of Indiana, I too would like to see brownfields sites in all of our cities and counties remediated. The truth of the matter is those aren't anywhere near the transmission infrastructure largely. So, and they might be really small and split up. So it wouldn't really allow for an efficient build. The cost of building on those and the insurance is dramatic. I mean, that's why no one's building on them. It's a problem that we have as society.
The closer you are to the grid is better for the company.
The closer we are to the grid is better for all.
They need subsidy.
We don't need a substation. We need a transmission line. So there will be a substation somewhere on the system, but do you mean the project substation or like a utility? There would be like a project substation, but like in this area, AEP might have existing substations throughout. I'm sure you guys know them better than I do in this area. Okay. Okay. Well, we wouldn't have to tap into that substation necessarily. We could tap into a line, we could intersect with an existing.
670.
Right, we'd have a project substation, but it wouldn't necessarily be the scale of like an AEP substation necessarily. But you're right. Yeah, you would transform the power and upgrade it to the voltage.
You'd have to have some kind of ability changing from DC to AC.
It's not a building, it's just an inverter unit.
Okay.
Yeah, but it does, you would need a structure. Yep. And those are, and like a lot of this would come out in the development plan process, but those can easily be embedded into like the depths of the site. And developers do that, for the good of communities.
One question for you.
Sure. Yeah.
I know I've seen you in Delaware County, but I've seen her in Delaware County.
We are not involved in Delaware County. No.
You're talking about tax revenue, and that's what they were saying in Delaware County. And then Baker Tilly came in and done research.
Okay.
County's going to get no more money than what they were already getting.
So we haven't done our tax. Again, we're pretty early on, and I'm sorry if you want to stop me at any time, feel free. So we have as a taxpayer, it's a blessing and a curse in this state that this state put constitutional tax caps on us with property taxes. So like you guys are farmers, it's like what, 2%, 1%? So that's great, but it also caps how much revenue can come in. So a lot of times companies will put an economic development agreement in place to go outside of that, to be able to give the county money and outside of the typical tax scheme, so that way they can use that money in any way they want. And also, when the taxes do cap because of the increased assessed valuation, everybody else in the county's taxes are actually lowered. So I read that article. Yeah, but it's to say it's a simple thing to explain is tough. So when we get reassessed, it would be up to the local assessor, be like commercial or industrial assessment. So it gets reassessed as that use. So it has the higher tax rate for the property tax cap. So correct. Yeah. So I was mentioning that economic development agreement, and it's pretty like most county. I can't remember. I apologize. But most counties' ordinances that we operate in actually require economic development agreements going in because of that very purpose that I was talking about. Is we've got these tax caps, which is a blessing and a curse, and counties want that money, and so that you can capture funds and send them via economic development agreements, and then counties can use them for broadband, schools, roads, whatever you want. Okay. Yes.
Looked at this, some people don't seem to recognize that you don't have to lease the land you're not using.
That's
You
correct.
don't have to lease a setback.
No, we don't lease setbacks.
So you wouldn't necessarily have to lease more land.
So the odds of us getting that rectangle are really odd, or like really, it would be really rare. It would be really rare. And so you'd probably, what happens in counties with large setbacks is you're having to dodge those setbacks in areas. And so you just get this sprawling site. But again, Ed, I don't want to speak out of turn because I haven't mapped this. So I'd be.
This is a hypothetical, but
Yeah.
it's a possibility. But anyway, what it's really saying is you don't have to lease the setback.
We don't lease setbacks. And so it wouldn't be, no.
That land.
It's just that perfect scenario doesn't happen.
Whether it happens or not, that's kind of up to you to negotiate with whoever owns the land, they do or they don't.
Right. And so then we might have one person here and move over here and move over here, and it can just become a sprawling situation.
Even some of the horrible maps, Madison County,
I can't speak to Madison County.
field there where they encircle small towns, 4 sites around an individual house.
So I can only speak to my experience and my company. And I really did just want to come up here to open up the conversation, because I think what you're saying is important. And, you know, as we get further along in the project and we can work with the surrounding neighbors, maybe the surrounding communities, if there are any, and see how we can harmonize these sites, that's what we want. This rhetoric, these talking points of surrounding houses and communities is concerning. So, you know, we really work to try not to have that happen.
You know, there are some bad acts in this arena. And there appears to be one of them. Now, you're not inventing, so to your credit, don't know. But, you know, it's.
I would just,
There is so much opposition.
I understand, and I don't want to speak ill against anybody else in the industry, because I think, you know, we're all good people and trying to do a good thing. I would just hate for good development to be restricted from coming into Grant County, and benefiting a lot of landowners here, and really the whole county from these revenues, the construction jobs that'll come, the operations guys. I used to oversee a fleet of operations guys, and they were all union electricians that came into the solar field. So I would hate for all of it to be restricted because of maybe some bad.
See,
But I'm over here. It's over here.
He's done. You know, what would be the restriction if the solar farm comes in? Farmer's gonna spend $500 to $800 approximately per acre, put on a crop this year.
Okay.
That money goes back to the county. That goes to your retail fertilizer, your seed person, which is me, and farmer.
Mhm.
So, you know, you got anybody help over here, but you take away over here. I also lease land. If I lose land to a solar farm, then I got a smaller production level. So, coming here, not picking on you, but solar farms want to make us, oh, this is a great thing. We're gonna get all this money back to the county. Well, not when you're gonna lose, say, 1,000 acres, we can find $800 land, whatever that cost is, and that flows back into the community. Because these retailers are local retailers.
Sure.
Seed people, fertilizer, chemical, whatever. So you have to take all that into consideration. And it's a compromise. You know, we talk about this plan. It's a compromise. We're not saying no, right? But we're saying we want some restrictions, and that's what we're trying to do is make a compromise.
Sure. No, I hear you. I like the lease rates that are paid to these landowners per acre on a 35, 40-year basis. That's an infusion of cash, people here locally.
All these landowners are not always local landowners. They may live out of state, they may live out of the county. So that's not always true.
Okay.
Some of these farmers that own land, retired farmers, they have a son or daughter in an operation. So they see that's an opportunity to do this with solar farms. But there's just many, of the other case where there is a family farm, they want to keep that farm legit family farm generation. Have a son, daughter come in and back into the farm.
Mm-hmm.
So there's both sides.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of landowners that we work with that say maybe their son or daughter don't want to farm, but they don't want to lose it because maybe their grandchildren. Personally, I was that grandchild. My grandparents used to own farm ground out in Park County, and they sold it because my parents didn't want that. And maybe I did, but they didn't have that choice because they didn't have that money. And so this is that option.
I think we talked long enough tonight.
Thank you for the allotted time. That was really fair of you. Thank you so much.
We passed. Ryan, you got anything before we adjourn? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
As long as I go to the bathroom first.
I'll make a adjourn.
Oh, shoot, shut up.
I'll second it.
Right off. I didn't want to be rude, but say, you were very rude to her.
I thought you were very patient.
I was, but here 20 minutes ago, Ron, I said, I said, it was Ryan looked over like, they were like, I'm going in. 9 o'clock, so here we go. Again.